I ran in the war, yeah, wrong, never will it ever end me. I like ice, but you run on yourself, cause it was about war. 58 counties screaming for the mind. The war's coming forth, never with the disguise. Another A-bomb for you, it really was it. Shroud medals in my vocabulary. Rolling with the punches, I'm roping and jumping. Dealing with the problems, I got to be coping. Making it fit, and I click just like a Lego. I'll be Casio, but you can be Tango from the FBI to the CIA. I'm clearing out the path and here to LA. I be from C-Town, kicking the roof there, ripping up the mic and way past sundown. As a world turn, as a world turn.
And we're back. Another episode, special episode this week of Prospects of the Land. And we're joined by very, very, very special guest, the man who was on the call for the Lake County Championship game where they won it in 2 against a great series against the Dayton Dragons. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Logan Petoskey. Logan, how are we doing today?
Doing great, guys. Big day for Lake County, and thanks so much for having me aboard here.
A big day for Lake County today because that final series starts today, which that's our job right now. We're going to be previewing that. But I mean, it was a huge day for Lake County back on what day was that? Wednesday, Thursday, I believe, right? Thursday. Yeah, on Thursday. I mean, talk about that. I mean, you're a phenomenal broadcaster, by the way. So I'll say that first and foremost as someone who does a lot of play-by-play myself. You, sir, are absolutely fantastic. Run me through your emotions of that. What was the atmosphere like at Lake County? What was calling that game like? Just go through your emotions from the broadcasting side of things.
For sure. Well, thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate it, and support for tuning in as well. It was an electric factory over there at Classic Auto Group Park in Eastlake, and that's what we've dubbed it. You know, as soon as we were getting to the home playoff slate, the electric factory is getting ready. Our social media team did a great job putting a great hype video together, and it lived up to it. It was a roller coaster type of game. While I was talking about it on the air with my intern Tyler Danberg, I was just describing how this is like a heavyweight bout, and it's just like how game 1 went. A resilient team that refuses to quit. They will give 110% every time they step out on the field, every half inning, doesn't matter what the situation is. And it was just another case of resiliency and banding together. And, you know, when you have a deficit like you did, it was 4-2 going to the bottom of the 6th. You're not going to get all 3 runs on that first swing. You just got to get something going. Just one base runner at a time. That's exactly what happened. And then the team just rallied together with runners on base. You get a sac fly from Jacob Kozar. You get a game-tying RBI single from Jonah Advincula. And then number 1 pick, Travis Bazzana, lives up to it, delivers in a big spot, and ultimately gives us the lead. And then bullpen slams the door shut by holding Dayton scoreless the last 3 innings. So a real team effort, and it's such a fun and special group. And they've really shown it this year, and the fans have certainly shown that too.
Well, we're going to now start to sort of recap that series there against Dayton. So let's go all the way back to game 1 here. Tavin, the captains ended up opening the scoring on Angel Yanao. And I realize that we've been pronouncing his last name wrong this entire time. So glad we're finally fixing that. But Angel Yanao getting called up from Lynchburg earlier this year. He gets that leadoff home run there against Dayton, and the captains are on the board early.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was obviously huge just to come right out the gate. We were talking last week about the keys to the game, and one of which was Matt Wilkinson. We obviously talked about he was going to be just a huge piece and what was going to win you the game. He went 5.2 innings pitched. He had 2 strikeouts and only gave up a 1 earned run. He gave up 2 on the day, but I think him and just the bullpen that came in after him, just a great job by the pitching staff itself. And do you talk about the atmosphere in Lake County? I think it was easily matched over in Dayton. Just watching it on TV, those fans, every pitch, especially in the later 8th, 9th inning, just going insane over everything. That was one of the best games just based on the atmosphere that I've watched all season, not just for the minor leagues, but even major leagues too. So I really think that just the pitching staff being able to just shut everything down, and especially Sean Rapp, who went in with just insane traffic, just on the bases. He got out of it, worked a beauty. So I really think that's what did it for Lake
Yeah,
County.
and we'll talk about that a little later too. Jay Allen ended up driving in the first Dayton run in the bottom of the 5th and in the bottom of the 6th. Well, there was some chaos that happened in there, right? Leo Balcazar ended up being on third base. Victor Acosta got hit by a pitch. Then there was a wild pitch from captain's pitcher Zach Jacobs, which allowed Balcazar at the time the go-ahead run to come home and score. He ended up getting out of that jam later, top of the 8th. Well, I'm sorry, that's just a key event. No scoring there to speak of on that. But I mean, you go to the top of the 9th. You need at least one run. And how about this, man? The captains get 3 of them. Ralphie Velasquez hit a double on a sharp line drive, to which Antunez was able to come home to score. Jake Fox standing on third. And then Jacob Cozart, my guy. I'm a huge Jacob Cozart fan. 2 RBI singles, scoring the runners from second and third. He was out at second on the throw, just trying to stretch it into a double. Probably should have just left with the single. And do you blame him for stretching it into the double there, Logan? I mean, from your point of view, is that I don't really know. I don't really blame him.
No, I mean, you might as well go big, and he was nearly there, especially with that 6-3 frame, went in with a head first slide. It was just a great throw from Ethan O'Donnell, I think it was, out there and right for Dayton.
Yep.
But you know, that was so great to see him get that big of a hit, because firstly
Especially
he did
since-
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did really well in the NCAA tournament this year with NC State, and he had a bit of a rough stretch. Just, I think, probably just making that bit of an adjustment to the pro pitching. He got a hit on his first pro pitch back in the middle of August, then had a bit of a kind of a rough stretch, but here in these playoffs, he's really proving why Cleveland picked him in the second round, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have him aboard offensively and defensively. As I'm thinking you guys will probably talk about what he did in game 2, which was a major play late in the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the bottom of the 9th now, because you mentioned Sean Rapp there. Well, it didn't start out too pretty for the Lake County bullpen. I don't remember who was in. Logan, who started that bottom of the 9th there for the Captains?
So Matt Jasek was the first pitcher in there.
Yeah, so Jasek did, I mean, let's be honest, did not have his best outing. A guy that usually is a pretty solid pitcher. Gave up a double to begin that, gave up a single there to start that. Or got a guy on base somehow. I forget how that happened. But then Victor Acosta hit a double, so you had runners on the corners. There was a single on a ground ball to the first baseman, Velasquez. Just a weird play to where it's just kind of one of those hits to where you'd like to get an out, but there's really no play to make of it. So it's one you just kind of have to eat. So bases end up getting loaded there. There was a run that ended up coming home to score there on a single. Oh, no. So the run did come home to score on the ground ball to the first baseman. That's where I was missing there on that. And then it was Sean Rapp time, baby. He came in and absolutely shut things down. I think we were going to try to get him here on this, but I think just some scheduling things ended up not working out. So Sean Rapp, if you're somehow watching this, we'd still love to talk to you, buddy, because that was just an insane performance from him. I mean, Logan, talk about that from your perspective. A guy came in an almost impossible situation, just absolutely shut things down.
Yeah, again, that was really great to see too, because I know it was an unfortunate end of last year, end of the year on the injured list after a solid showing with Lake County, and then didn't come to Lake County again until I believe it was late July of this year off the injured list. He made a couple of rehab appearances in Arizona. So I know how much he's loved being a part of this team and what he's meant to this team. And he's now converted a save in each of his last 4 appearances out of our bullpen. So he's kind of getting into that closer role. As I know you guys cover a lot of Akron Rubber Ducks. You guys have our 2 main closers from this year, Magnus Ellerts and Zane Morehouse. Yep. So seeing Rapp kind of step in, Alan Hernandez has 6 saves for us on the year. So that is kind of giving us a 2-headed monster closer right now. And that's nearly as tough of a situation as you can get. It's a playoff game. You're on the road in probably the most hostile environment in the Midwest League, if not all of high A. And you had you had the winning run on base, mind you, the tying run at third, winning run at first, and your defense comes through with that second out. How about Ralphie
Velasquez to Jacob Cozart? I've replayed that in my mind how many times? That was an incredible heads-up play from a guy that, again, a lot of questions as to how he would adjust to the high A level coming up from Lynchburg. defensively, he's been doing just fine. That was an exceptional play to save us going into extra innings. And then, of course, Rapp ends it with the strikeout of Ethan O'Donnell. And the Captains win game one in thrilling fashion. I thought the Dragons were going to win game one, full disclosure. Tavin did think that the Captains were going to win game one, but I'll also get on your back here, Tavin. You also thought the Dragons were going to win game two. No, it was a full sweep here of the Captains. Let's go ahead and go to game two now, because it wasn't as hot of a start for the Captains in that first game there, Tavin.
No, I mean, coming in game two, obviously you didn't get much going out the gate, but coming off of things that happened toward the end, at the end of game one, made game two kind of seem like more, not a more important game, but there was more to it. There was a little skirmish at the end with Jay Allen getting heated over something, little tensions boiling over. So we all knew it was going to be a good game, obviously. And Travis Bazzana, the number one pick, came through when it really mattered in game two. I did think shocking. We saw DeLucia get the start. I thought it was going to be Spivey. We did talk about how it could be DeLucia, but they had Spivey out of the bullpen, which was interesting. So if things were to go south in game two, it would have been interesting to see who they would have started in game three. But nonetheless, the bullpen shut everything down from there on. I don't think anybody gave up. No, nobody gave up an earned run outside of that.
Nope.
So again, just I really feel like the pitching aspect for Lake County is why they kind of took this home. And obviously you mentioned Jacob Cozart's just defensive play at the end of that. Bats got hot when they needed to. Really think that's why Lake County came on top.
Yes. So let's go ahead and go through things here. Jay Allen and Ethan O'Donnell started things off for the Dragons. Two singles that ended up coming home to score runs, both of them with 2 outs, mind you. So a huge spot there for Dayton to get those runs, but they went up 2-0 after the top of the third. Jake Fox ended up hitting himself a home run in the bottom of the fourth to cut that Dragon lead in half, so bring the Captains within 1. But you go right back the next half inning, and the Dragons just continue to add runs on top. It was Ethan O'Donnell again, hitting a single, scoring the runner on second, that being Jay Allen to make it 3-1, and then Cam Collier grounded into a double play, but there was a runner on third base that ended up coming home to score 4-1 Dragons at the halfway point. And then you mentioned Travis Bazzana there, Tavin. Not only did he end the rally, which we're going to talk about in a minute, he started the rally, a home run there in the bottom of the 5th inning. So, I mean, Logan, how exciting was it to see the number 1 overall pick, not only say like, okay, we're going to put him in Lake County, so you have the opportunity to call him, but for then him to come through in the biggest moment, not only to start the rally, but as I'll touch on in a bit, to end the rally as well.
Yeah, truly an awesome sight. And I know you guys know, everybody following our system knows, just, a lot of, there's so many fans who want to see him and get a first impression of him at the pro level, being in the Cleveland system. And he's been an absolute pleasure. Work ethic is off the charts, personality off the charts as well. And so great to see him delivering in a big spot, because we actually had a post-game interview after the game. My intern, Tyler Danberg, was able to have a chance to chat with him on the field, and he's just talking about how, there's so many of these guys who they've been here on this whole 130-plus game grind, and now they're getting into those playoff games. And he was like, they already clinched before I even got here. So just, being able to come here and help contribute, it really means a lot to be playing in these games that really matter in the postseason. And he has stepped up to the plate in a big way. Defensively, too, throughout Jay Allen the second at home in game 1 from second base, and comes up with 2 big hits in game 2. Just can't wait to see what him and, the guys do going into this championship series. It's really been awesome.
And the bottom of the 6th was where that rally ended. 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th to bring this one home. Jacob Cozart hit a sacrifice fly. So again, not going to really go as a hit, but still a big time play there from Jacob Cozart. Really stepped up and played well this playoff series. You have Alex Mooney coming home to score. Jake Fox goes to third. That's important because the very next batter, Jonah Edvincula, singles on the soft line drive to Jay Allen, bringing Fox home. And then Collado ends up coming home to third. And then we keep mentioning his name. We're probably going to mention it still all show long. Travis Bazzana, a single on a ground ball into left field. Collado comes home to score. That ended up being the winning run, and an amazing play. Let's go to the bottom of the 9th. An amazing play from Velasquez at first base to get that tag down to prevent the game from being extended. and the Captains are on to the Midwest League Championship Series. Logan, any final thoughts from you regarding that series against Dayton?
Just really fun. It was as playoff baseball as about playoff baseball can get.
Oh, yeah.
Nail-biting one-run games for both of them, and it really is a game of inches. I know people say football is a game of inches. You very well can make a case for baseball. If that tag doesn't get put down by Ralphie on that play at first, it's a tie ball game. Who knows what happens from there, but heck of a play. And the same goes for the play he had in game one, that shovel to home plate. Kozar puts down the tag. That's a potential tying run. If that scores, who knows what happens there. So, I mean, he has a very strong bat. That defense at first base and in left field has really been something special early on too. And we should be in for a fun one these next coming couple of days.
Yeah, it's the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. Is that correct? Do I have that nickname right?
Yep.
I love minor league baseball nicknames. I love them. Off topic for a second. Logan, what is your favorite minor league baseball nickname?
Oh, there are so many good ones. If I had to pick one that I just think it's so out there and I love it, it's the Sugarland Space Cowboys. I think they're the AAA of the Astros.
That's a very popular
Such
one.
a fun name.
Yeah.
And the logo says it all. What the astronaut, the cowboy hat, that's spectacular. I love that.
All right, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and now start talking about this Wisconsin series they have coming up. It obviously starts tonight. Game one is tonight. Tavin, who's on the bump for both of these teams today?
Well, for Lake County, it's going to be Rorik Maltrid. He's 8-5 with a 3.44 ERA. He has 104 innings on the year, 118 strikeouts. So pretty big strikeout guy for Lake County. He's going to be going up against Ryan Burchard for Milwaukee's high A. And on paper, that he doesn't have the best stats. Through 10 games, he's 1-3 for the Rattlers with a 6.33 ERA. So on paper, you're really going to kind of expect Lake County to go out the gate strong, really attack this guy offensively, and just hope that Rorik can pull something out on his end for Lake County.
Logan, what do you see this pitching matchup looking like from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that Rorik keeps doing what he's been. And it's really been the theme of Captain's pitching this year. Just the command in the strike zone has been remarkable. I'd be curious to see like total pitches thrown by the whole staff and strike percentage. I'd like to think we're near the top, if not at the top of the Midwest League in that stat. And Rorik Maltrid has been doing a lot of that this year. So if he can just stay in that rhythm that he's been able to establish across Lynchburg and Lake County, probably from a starter, you're thinking if he can get at least 5 innings out of there, and then the bullpen, the way it's been going, just have it be able to piggyback off that. But even if you can get 6 from your starter, I mean, a quality start, we've had plenty of those with Lake County. That's obviously the dream, but, just keeping the game manageable, hitting the strike zone, I think that should set up the offense to do well for tonight.
You mentioned the entire pitching staff kind of doing their thing this year. I mean, it's not even just been all the guys on the roster. I mean, it's been even Austin Peterson and Parker Messick, who started the year down there, who've been absolute gold. Trenton Denholm, who's obviously came up now. In your opinion, just kind of what role does Lake County pitching kind of play in their success this season?
100%. It plays a substantial role. I mean, looking at the team pitching ranks in the Midwest League, leading the league in ERA, tied for first in wins. You lead the league in holds. So out of the bullpen, you're doing a great job of keeping the lead intact. Fewest runs and earned runs allowed. You lead the league in whip. I mean, looking at all those categories where you are at the top, that's going to set the table for your offense to succeed. And it's been complimentary baseball, because there have been games where, hey, say maybe the pitching doesn't have its greatest day. Offense has been able to come in and say, hey, we've got your back, and go from there. Like, I think of a game, I think it was like mid to late April, we're facing Lansing, and Carter Spivey can't get out of the first inning. I think he lets up 4 or 5 runs. 4 runs in that top of the first, that top of the first inning. Zach Jacobs comes in and gives you, I think it's 4 1/3 scoreless innings of relief. And what does the Lake County offense do? 5 runs in the second, 4 runs in the third. 3 runs in the 5th, and you win the game. I think those were all the runs, 12-4. So games like that, it's where the team is helping each other in so many different ways. And, we talked about the pitching. It really has served as a strong foundation.
So
sure.
Logan, I do want to ask you this question here. And this is something that Tavin and I kind of debated on our last show there this past Monday. Do you feel like the Lake County lineup is as good, if not maybe better than it was in the first half? Because obviously a lot of those guys are now up in Akron, guys like Kafis, guys like Furman, who obviously is on the IL right now, and so many other guys went up to Akron. I mean, what has that transition with the lineup been like? How have you seen the batting philosophy of this team change?
Well, I don't know if you guys have heard me say it on the air yet, but our team has dubbed itself, when we're hitting the ball really well, we dub ourselves as Rake County. So,
oh yeah,
and
Tavin knows that well.
And well, I mean, I really think we've lived up to it. And like you were saying, those are some really tough shoes to fill. CJ Kafis, what a special left-handed bat he has been this year.
Oh yeah.
And going to Akron, I mean, he was tied for the Midwest League lead in batting average when he left us, and his start with Akron, I think, was even better. And he's still been doing great for the Ducks. And like you said, Nate Furman too. That's who he was tied with for the lead. So those were 2 cornerstones of our lineup. And even going further down the list, Cooper Engel was arguably the heart and soul of this team. And it's been really great to see him thriving with the Rubber Ducks. But yeah, it's like not even like a rebuilding. It's almost like a reloading. And, near the end of the season, I know maybe the average and stuff didn't really look the greatest for a couple of guys, but they were just getting into high A, making their adjustments. But looking at guys like Jacob Cozart and Ralphie Velasquez, they have been huge in the postseason, and that's ultimately when it matters most. And, and just even getting additions from Single A Lynchburg, like Wilfredo Antunes, his, I think, was like 16 games in the regular season. He had over 300 for us. So really made a quick adjustment to swinging a red hot bat. And Angel Henao is one of the most fun prospects to watch. He really is must see, just the all around game that he's got. And he's a table setter near the top of the lineup. It really is special. And we've seen it with Lake County. We've seen it with Akron, and Lynchburg is the one that starts that train of affiliated balls. So it's been really fun.
So in your opinion, Logan, you've been doing this for a while. You've seen guys come up and down and all sorts of things. What is the biggest adjustment that hitters, and maybe even pitchers, but I'm talking about the hitting side, that hitters have to make coming out of college, guys of Bazana's stature, guys of Cozart's stature, or even just coming up from single A ball to high A ball?
Yeah, I think something that's of note, and I feel like I've just heard a couple of players say this, when they've been like doing like interviews, talking to people, whatever, like there is that adjustment of when you get to that pro level, say you've been a mainstay college bat, like you're like every starter on that staff is probably a Friday night starter on a high tier college team. So that competition, there definitely is a step up. The mixes are going to be a little more varied. But it really is just honing in on that. And, I'm really not sure how much the bat has to do with it. Obviously you're switching from aluminum to wooden, but I feel like you're practicing enough and training enough to where I don't know if that's as much of a factor.
I also kind of feel like guys that know they're going to be drafted might take a couple batting rep cages with a wooden bat in college. So again, to your point there, I agree with you. I don't think that has a big impact with it at all. Maybe for some guys it does, because some guys have more power with a metal bat. Some guys have more power with a wood bat. I think it depends on your swing and your stance and how you drive your feet and all of that good stuff. But so we'll go ahead and start with you as you sort of compile your notes and preview this series against Wisconsin. Anyone to watch out for on the offensive side for this Timber Rattlers team?
I think it absolutely starts with Yadier Arianamo.
Absolutely.
He has been an unbelievable talent. I put this note together because this is truly remarkable. As of Thursday night, I'm not sure if the numbers have quite changed yet to adjust. I'd have to double check today. Here's your list of minor league hitters with at least a 300 average, 40 extra base hits, and 30 steals this year. Yadier Aryanamo. End of list. That's it. There's one
Wow.
hitter. There's one hitter in the minor leagues at that point. 330 average, 50 extra base hits, 25 steals. Angel Hanao, and that's your list. Those are
Oh,
two
wow. Okay.
unbelievable dynamite prospects in the
Okay.
infield who are going to be going at it. Aryanamo, I think, is that focal point for them offensively. Somebody else to look at, Luke Adams. How about this? I almost had to like rub my eyes and be like, wait, is that correct? In the regular season, he got hit by pitch 40 times.
Oh,
His
Wow.
on-base percentage is over 44%, but that's the guy who ultimately delivered the walk-off RBI single to bring them into the series. So that's someone who's getting on base quite often for Wisconsin. And then somebody else really got to keep an eye on, Cooper Pratt. Believe he's the
Yep.
number 2 Milwaukee prospect right now.
yep. Number
It's another
two.
dynamic talent to be on the
Number
lookout
two.
for.
Yeah, and I do want to throw a couple other names in there as well, because there are a couple of other top prospects here that are with this team that maybe necessarily haven't been there for a long time. Well, Luis Lara has been. I believe he's a top 15 prospect. He's hitting 245 on the season, .65 OPS, pretty solid numbers from him. He's a center fielder. He can play a really good glove in the outfield as well. Blake Burke, though, has not been there for that long. He's only played 5 games with the Timber Rattlers, plays first base, but has a 250 average, is 4 of 16, has yet to really drive in a run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. So he's kind of a big unknown, at least with how he does at the high A level, but did very well at the single A level. And then a guy that they literally just called up for this series is their number 6 prospect in the organization, Yeferi Rodriguez. What can you tell us about him?
Well, I'll tell you what, to be honest, I'm really just going to have to take an initial look because officially announced to move this morning. So, but I do know that another young, talented prospect, and I think on their official list, I think they called up, I think it was him and maybe 2 pitchers too. So they made a couple
Yep, there are a
additions
couple
ahead of the
pitchers up
series.
there.
So yeah, that's from what I'd have to think, being on a single A Carolina team that I think won the first half in the Carolina League,
Yep.
In Lynchburg's division. I can't remember. I think it's the North.
Yep.
Being on a team like that and getting the call up in the playoffs, you've got to have a lot of talent and a lot to bring to the table. So curious to see how he does here.
For sure. I mean, you
Well, let's
talk
take
about
a
a
look at
guy
that
who kind of
initial
just
look
got
because
called
he's
up.
hitting 250. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tavin.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna jump in and say, I
No,
mean, a
Tavin,
guy
go
who
ahead.
just
You're fine, man.
kind of just got called up. You talk about him. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while too. It's kind of a 2-parter. Obviously, people want to know, like, with Travis Bazzana, could you maybe see after the Lake County Championship Series, see the same thing if Akron might go on a run and have him come up? And then my second part to it was kind of your sort of stance on a guy like Jason Churio. Did you think maybe before the injury, he might have been getting the call to Lake County? Because me and Nate have talked about that for pretty
And we
much
have
half the
very
year when he was
different.
going to come up.
We have pretty differing opinions on that too. I've always been sort of interject my answer before you interject yours. Just remind the people out there, I've always kind of been like, there's no need to rush Bazzana's development. Like, let's let him get through the season against Lake County. Let's see where Akron's at. And especially when you talk about a guy with Bazzana's case, with how many middle infield prospects this organization has, where do you move him? Where does he go?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are so many different ways to go about it. And I mean, I guess I'll start with Churio just because he, began the season, with our organization. I mean, I could have probably seen it happening, just based on, we had a big influx, end of July, had another middle of August was the last one we got. Antunez, Velasquez, Yorman Gomez, Kevin Rivas came back. So, I mean, it could have maybe been in that stretch. Was a bit unfortunate to see him ending the season with an injury. So certainly wishing him all the best. He looked like he was having a phenomenal season and could have very well been. I don't know if that would have actually happened, but I think coincidentally it was around the time when Jorge Burgos got called up to Akron, and I think it was Petey Halpin went to the injured list. So maybe that could have been something that might have happened, but time will tell. I would have to think, based on the season he had this year, does he start next year in Lake County? Only time will tell. But if when he does get here, would really look forward to seeing him in person and see how he plays, because what a young talent, just 19 years old. Now going to Travis, just kind of a new spot for the organization. You've never had the number 1 pick in the draft before, so perhaps it's really like a new spot for everybody. It's like, what do we think we should do? I mean, something that comes to mind for me, looking at last year, look at a guy like Chase DeLauder, who, he came off the injured list, and then, he got promoted to Akron right at the end of the season. Now, we weren't in the postseason, so I don't know if maybe that had anything to do with it. I have no idea. But the Arizona Fall League, he was spectacular and thrived really well there, just in some more off-season reps. So maybe that could be an option too. Really don't know. And I feel like, again, it's just a new spot for everybody. So I'm curious how it kind of unfolds. But, obviously for right now, got the captain's postseason, and can't wait to see how that ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start sort of going forward and previewing this series here a little bit. Again, Tavin previewed the pitching matchup a little bit earlier here in game 1. It's going to be Maltrud versus Burchard. And then if you give me a second, I'll get the pitching matchup for game 2, which is going to end up being on Tuesday back in Lake County. They have home field advantage. I think it switches back and forth between which division has home field advantage. I think that's how they do it in AA as well. This year it is Lake County's division that has home field advantage. So Lake County gets the home field. Cornell and Wilkinson will be taking the mound there in game 2. And then if there is a game 3 to be had, it'll be on Wednesday night. And we don't quite know who's going to be pitching for the Timber Rattlers yet, but it will be Dylan DeLucia for the Lake County Captains. At least that is all according to MILB.com. So we will start with the play-by-play guy. Okay, Logan, big keys to the series, and I want both sides here. What do the Captains have to do? What do the Timber Rattlers have to do to come out with a championship?
Well, I think for Lake County defensively, really want to limit how much Wisconsin can get on base, because this year they have been fantastic getting on base and stealing bases. As a team, Wisconsin, firstly, leading the league in fewest strikeouts. You talk about disciplined hitting, but the most stolen bases and second in on base percentage as a team. So this team really knows how to cash in when you get runners on base. So defensively, that's going to be a big key for Lake County. Offensively, Captains, I think it's just going to be setting the table. I kind of mentioned it earlier, just getting on base early, so then you can get a rally kind of strung together. I think that's going to be a key factor, and something that they've done a great job of is not too often are they chasing pitches way out of the zone. If you can keep that philosophy going, you really can have that on-base percentage high and potentially start some rallies there. Pitching wise, just stick to your guns. It's what you've been good at all year, finding the strike zone early and often. Defense has been making great plays behind them, but limiting wild pitches, mistakes. It's almost kind of cliche in a bit, just because it's what you want to do every series, but just against a team that is so dynamic in the base paths, you really want to make sure that you have a good grip on everything and are ready to go soundly and defensively. And for Wisconsin, pitching wise, you're going up against a Lake County team who in the regular season led the league in runs scored. They had the most RBI, the most walks. And they had the highest on base percentage in OPS as well. So the on base factor, I think, is going to be the key, because, and not to mention as well, when Lake County season ended in the Midwest League, we led the league in stolen base percentage. So I feel like the base paths could be a deciding factor in this series. And like we saw in the Dayton series, those defensive plays, a game of inches, like I said, with Ralphie Velasquez twice, who knows? The entire series could come down to one stolen base and one throw or something like that. So it's those nitty gritty hustle type of plays that are going to be the difference against the 2 first half champions. And you know what? For these guys, another key too is there's very much an element of uncertainty. We faced Dayton in the Midwest League East Championship Series, and we played them 18 times in the regular season. So those two teams knew each other pretty well. We have not faced Wisconsin since May 9th through the 11th of 2019. So we weren't even high A at that point.
Wow.
So there is a lot to be learned in such a limited amount of time, and the stakes could not be higher at this level.
Yeah, Tavin, we'll go to you next. Any sort of keys you're looking for there on both sides here? What do each team have to do to come out with a win?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with game one. Obviously, in a 3-game series, there's not a lot of room for error. If you lose game one, you have to pick up both the games. So obviously, it's not a 5 or 7-game series. So you got to limit the errors, like Logan said. I think another thing comes down to the pitching. You got to keep, Cooper, Pratt, and just got the other guys like that in that lineup. You just can't really let them get to you on the pitching side. And I think a lot of it's also the young bats, like I've been hammering at home all year. It's can they kind of get it consistent? I know Cozart, he's woken up as of lately, so he's been on fire. Velasquez, love everything he's about. Jake Fox, Bazana, obviously, just all those guys. And everybody in that lineup's really been stepping it up. So I think it's just offensive consistency. That's going to be a big one. And I think another role that plays in it is when it gets back to Lake County, I think that crowd's going to really, really propel Lake County. I mean, I was watching game 2. The atmosphere was unmatched. I mean, every time Bazana was up, there was somebody waving an Australian flag behind home plate, which was awesome. Alan Hernandez came into pitch. He had his own hype intro video. It was, yeah, I just think the atmosphere in Lake County, that's going to play a huge role come game 2 and possibly 3.
Well, we'll go to sort of what I expect from this series now. And I do think that this is going to be a very interesting series because kind of to sort of emphasize what I believe Logan was trying to say earlier, it's two very different styles of baseball in a way, right? Both teams get on base and they like to run. Wisconsin does it a lot more than Lake County, even though, again, Lake County likes to steal a lot of bases. Wisconsin kind of plays that Cleveland Guardians of old style, right? It's small ball. They do the little things right, which, I mean, you could still say about the Guardians pro team now, but especially when you go back to look at the team that made the playoffs in 2022 and last season in 2023, even though they didn't win that many games, it's small ball. They get on base, they do the little things right, and that's exactly what Wisconsin's going to try to do. I mean, again, a guy that I feel like we just keep passing over is Luis Lara, leads the team in steals with 45 of them. That's an insane number for high A. That is an absolutely insane number. And he's took off almost 60 times. Now, that'll tell you he's only about 75% stealing bases. So sort of to Logan's point there, if Jacob Cozart behind the plate continues to play as well defensively as he did in that first series, that is going to be huge. If he can throw out these base runners trying to take advantage of taking that second base, that's going to be absolutely massive. But I pointed to the bullpen in this last series. I said, hey, whichever bullpen pitches better, whether that be Lake County or Dayton, I think it's going to win the game. Guess what? Lake County's bullpen ended up having a better series. That's why Lake County is here in the championship series and not the Dayton Dragons. But I think the clutch hitting factor is going to come into play. And while I don't know, again, you said that Wisconsin, Logan, had a walk-off to win their past series. The captains there not only had 2 really impressive wins, but 2 comeback wins at the hands of the Dayton Dragons, who for the most part are a pretty good defensive team. So I feel like the bullpen is going to come into play here as well as that clutch gene. Whichever team can get the bigger hits, whichever team can sort of find that momentum and drive the other team's pitching into the ground, I think it's going to have a more successful series. Game 1 is going to be in Wisconsin. Games 2 and 3 back there in Lake County. And Logan, since you are sort of like the Kirk Herbstreit figure here, right? You are calling the games. No pick from you, Tavin. Who's winning the series?
I mean, it's hard to pick against Lake County, so I'm gonna take Lake County. And again, what I said from last series, I'm gonna take them in 3. I mean, you just a really good matchup. I think Wisconsin is gonna come out the gate strong, and against my last pick from last week, I think Wisconsin's gonna strike possibly first and get game 1. I know they don't have the best starter on the mound tonight, but if he can get through it, I really think their bullpen can come through and take game 1. Then you're going to go to Lake County for game 2, and I think it's obviously a must-win game. I think they're going to take that one, and Lake County obviously comes down to game 3. And what I really emphasize in the minor leagues is just I feel like the younger guys, they just play better when the crowd's behind them. It's loud. The atmosphere just works to their advantage. And yeah, obviously have DeLucia, who's been just great. I think he's going to put it away. I think the captains are going to rally in game 3. So I got the captains in 3.
And I very much am going to echo your same sentiment. I think Wisconsin takes that in game one. I think sort of the shifting in styles, right? You go from a team that plays power baseball, right? Dayton didn't necessarily score that many runs with guys on base. They utilized the long ball really effectively during the regular season. They were able to limit that. Lake County was. It's a completely different style. Wisconsin gets on base a lot. They score a lot of runs that way through stealing bases. And I think it's going to be a struggle sort of adapting to that, especially with Maltrud on the mound. I think it's going to be Wisconsin in game one, but the crowd factor, I can't emphasize this enough, is going to be absolutely massive. Having the home crowd behind you for not one, but 2 games is huge. And so obviously they're Lake County winning game 2. I think Wisconsin will be rattled by the crowd. They'll settle in game 3, and it's going to be a very close game 3. But like I also said last week, more often than not, and I know baseball is well more than a team sport than basketball, football, hockey, whatever, you go with the best player on the field. And the best player on the field, I feel, is Travis Bazana. If he can come through and get a clutch hit, much like he was able to do to start and end the rally against Dayton, I think that's going to spell doom for the Timber Rattlers. And I got Lake County winning this series. Logan, obviously you're calling the game, so we can't have you pick it. But, I mean, just talk about your excitement here. What are you looking forward to in this series?
Well, like you guys have been saying, the crowd. It's going to be such a great atmosphere at Classic Auto Group Park. That's our mission, to pack the park. And we certainly did so this past Thursday against Dayton. It was such a great place to be. And I mean, postseason baseball, there really is nothing like it. It's been a fun group. It's been a special group that we've had this year. And it's obviously shown with, I think we've had 11 players or so promoted to Akron this year, and they've been doing so well. And by the way, wishing the Rubber Ducks all the best in the Eastern League playoffs. I'm hoping to see maybe, if the scheduling works out, maybe, a bunch of our captain's crew can get out there for a game or two at Canal Park. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, the crowd, Classic Auto Group Park, it's going to be absolutely electric. And, looking for tickets, go to captainsbaseball.com. And yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and we're chasing history. We've only won 1 championship in franchise history. It's our first year in the Midwest League back in 2010. Catcher on that team was a guy named Roberto Perez. So, what kind of major leaguer that guy turned into. So who knows what prospects, what potential guardian to the future.
He was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So lots of great young talent. You're going to be seeing future Cleveland Guardians on the field that night. What better place to be? Classic Auto Group Park, captainsbaseball.com for tickets. Tuesday at 6:35. If we need a game 3, Wednesday at 6:35, Eastlake, Ohio. Can't miss it.
And Logan, just in case people cannot end up going to the game and they're like me and they live in Nebraska or somewhere else, where can they listen to your lovely voice call the game?
You bet. Appreciate it. You can get the Bally Live app. It's a free app on the App Store or Google Play Store, and I think all you do is put in your phone number, just make a quick account for free, and you go to the MILB zone. You can watch every single minor league game for free on the Bally Live app. And if you are subscribed to this, you can also watch on MILB TV.
All right. Thank you. Logan, I do also want to, before we wrap up the show here, kind of ask you a little bit about your commentating journey, especially just someone that calls games like myself. Really curious to hear your insight on this. I mean, I've called championship volleyball before. What's it like calling a championship level sport? I mean, it's completely different than any regular season game. Have you called championship level stuff before? What's kind of your experience with that?
I have, yeah. So go back to my college days. Went to John Carroll University out there in University Heights, Ohio. Go Blue Streaks. I had the honor of calling our school's first ever women's lacrosse, OAC. It's our conference, Ohio Athletic Conference. Our first ever conference championship in women's lacrosse history. It was a whole lot of fun to call. Just the celebration after Set It All. They basically ran the full field, mobbed each other. It was such a great scene. And what a great win there. And calling these games right now, you almost kind of, especially when you're with the team, you almost have a bit of that fan feel, and very much so. I mean, you're around the team so much, obviously. Heart's pounding a bit, probably some sweat a little bit, shaking the shaking the arms and legs a little bit. It's that nervous energy, but it's just that excitement. There's just something about championship baseball, because it's so ride or die, and especially in a best of 3 series, every pitch means that much more. It's no best of 5, it's no best of 7, it's best of 3. You either have it or you don't, and it just really is awesome and an absolute pleasure to just tell these stories of all these guys from near and far, and just getting to spread the word across the country, across the world. It's just an honor and a pleasure, and I just cannot wait to see what's in store. We're hoping it's the second title in Lake County Captains history. We're gonna have to wait and see.
And Tavin, I'll let you ask a question here if you have one in a minute, but I always have to ask this question when I come across someone that calls games. Do you have any sort of like crazy broadcasting story, like a funny moment or something wild that happened?
Well, well, we've had a couple of those with Lake County. I got a funny one here for sure. So there's one last year. So I don't know if you guys know, I think like the Copa night for Akron, what are they, like the Perros Calientes,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
So for us, we're Los Picantes de Lake County. So it translates to the Lake County Spices. We got like the pepper logo, if you've ever seen it or anything like
Best
that.
jerseys,
Yeah,
one of the best jerseys in the minor leagues.
Right. Yeah. So that's what that's for. So fans at, the game, they'll have like a salsa eating contest. So like they just get there's crazy hot salsa and stuff. So during the game, I get a bowl of salsa, and it's the first one's like normal. They maybe a little bit of spice salsa, but it's good. I get another one that apparently had some like crazy hot sauce on top of it. And I guess I just took a scoop right off the top, and it was mouth was on fire. Tears.
Were you calling the game at that point?
While I'm calling the game. So
wow.
I think I called. So here's where it gets kind of crazier. I think I called a Jorge Burgos home run, maybe like a Yordi's Valdez RBI double. The game goes to the 10th inning. I've never called a walk-off home run in my life. What goes on there? 2 outs. Jorge Burgos is at the plate. He hits a walk-off home run. The only walk-off home run I've ever called, and it was while I was on like hot sauce and salsa fumes. It was just crazy. That probably has to be one of the craziest experiences I've had in the booth. Our booth this year has just been a boatload of fun. Pun totally intended, by the way. We are the captains. We had a point this year where we had a big bubble fest at the ballpark, and we had like a Guinness World Record bubble blower. He made like a person-sized bubble. My intern stepped inside and he called a pitch inside of a bubble. So that also is really cool to have that in our booth. We had an NEO wrestling night where one of the wrestlers put my intern in a headlock while we were on air, and we had another wrestler on with us. So those two were cutting a promo or cutting a match. I forget what that's called there, but then they left the booth there. So that also was really funny. There's one more too. I'm trying to think. We had a medieval metal night, and we had 2 knights in our booth. They were on headset. We were talking to them. I was holding a medieval weapon. I think it's called a halberd. It's like an axe, sword, spear looking thing. I was holding one of those. And while I was holding a medieval weapon, Mike Coyato hits a home run while I'm holding a medieval weapon. And then the one knight says to me, got to get an axe in his hand. I'm like, yeah, he sure looked like it there. So those are just some of the just crazy fun moments we've had. And I'm looking forward to what's in store next.
Dude, minor league baseball is
for sure.
Fun.
There's nothing like it. It really isn't.
Tavin, any questions for Logan before we let him go? I mean, the Browns play in 1 minute.
They do?
Yeah, not so much for me. I mean, we got one from the chat here. It's just kind of, I mean, Logan, what are the next guys from Lynchburg just to keep an eye on for? Don't want to look too far down the road because obviously championships tonight, but for next year, maybe guys in Lynchburg to really come up in Lake County.
Yeah, I mean, guys who just come to mind initially, because I know they've had quite a bit of turnover, as have we going to Akron. It just shows how great the player development system has been this year. Jason Churio, I think, is probably number 1 in my mind. I'm imagining with the year he had, probably makes his way up to Lake County some point next year. Another one that comes to mind, Welbin Francisca. I know, very young player. He might have like just turned 18, I think, and he had a great end of the season. He seems like a fun player, could be a great talent to have as well. Pitching wise, I'm trying to think because would have maybe said Alex Clemmy, but now he's in the Washington system.
Yeah, right.
Jackson
Yeah.
Humphreys, I think, could be a potential great watch there. Another highly drafted prospect, believe, from last year. Those are just a couple that come to mind initially. I think one more, Luis Durango Jr., I think had a great season with them too. Heard he was hitting a lot of balls very hard. So those are just a couple of guys, and such a fun group down there in Lynchburg as well. And had to shout out their broadcaster, director of media relations, Jason Prill. He's the absolute best. Ohio product too. So just like me,
There
it's
we go.
pretty cool to have those ties going there. And we're always in touch just about like, hey, between Lynchburg, Lake County, they've had such great seasons, and I'll reach out to him just to see, hey, what do you know about this guy? Maybe things that I should know. And he's always been such a great resource. So I can't wait to see what happens. But like you guys said, right now it's playoff time, and really looking forward to this championship series. We're hoping we can bring it home for Northeast Ohio.
Is it sad
For
that I
sure.
imagine you're going to be watching this first game from home? Do you ever sort of get that, man, I wish I was there?
Yeah, but I mean, it's it still is a lot of fun, getting to cover remotely. We'll see what happens, going forward. Maybe get to go to a couple of these other ballparks. Did have the pleasure, and do really want to thank our team for letting us go to Dayton and broadcast the game. We actually had an audio only broadcast of that Dayton game, and could not have picked a better one, I don't think,
No,
for the first
Not at all.
audio only broadcast, away broadcast of the year. But again, just still keeping up with everything as I'm able, and I'm really excited for this game. This is an awesome group. They deserve everything, and I'm hoping it ends up being a Midwest League championship. I really do.
Sir, good luck to you calling those games. Have fun calling game 2 and possibly a game 3 winner take all game. And thank you for joining us here and taking time out of your day to talk some baseball with us.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me, and love what you guys are doing here. These minor league prospects, coaches, you name it, they deserve everything, all the spotlight, all the recognition that they can because of the hard work that they put in. So it really means a lot that you guys are bringing that to the spotlight and putting their names out there. Thanks for having me.
For
Yeah,
sure. I mean,
absolutely.
where can the people find you for just Lake County coverage on Twitter or now X or Instagram?
Sure. Yeah. So me personally, it's just going to be my name at Logan Petoskey, LoganPotosky. Captains are at LC Captains. That's X, Instagram, TikTok. Their Facebook is Lake County Captains. Our social media team has just been unbelievable the past few years. And I mean, championship content, I cannot wait for that. It should be a whole lot of fun.
For sure.
Logan, you just got a new follower on Twitter.
There you go. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, well, Logan, we'll let you get going. Hey, go Captains, go Ducks. We'll preview the Ducks playoff series tomorrow on our usual time, as well as everything else happening around the minor league system. And go Browns against the Jags. Hopefully they can bounce back and win that game. Tavin, anything else from you?
That's it for today. Obviously tomorrow, huge just preview for Akron. So
Yeah, huge preview for Akron. We'll catch you up on Columbus and everything else in the minor league system. Again, one final thank you to Logan Petoskey for joining us today, and good luck to the Captains in that playoff series. Anything else from you before we sign things off?
All good. Thank you guys so much for having me, and best wishes to you, and hoping we can bring home the winner.
All right, we'll end this here. Have a good day, everyone. Cheer on the Browns, cheer on the Captains, and we'll see you in the next one. See you tomorrow, actually.